idea about the 600-year prophecy regarding the coming of Christ.
The other
They
thing I
seem
was going to say
oblivious to it.
I'm sorry, Brett. The other thing I was going to say along that same vein is that one of the things that the Nephites are famous for, at least amongst the apologists, and I think there's some merit to it, is their timekeeping.
Right.
At different points, they have 3 different calendars, sometimes running concurrently. These guys, if they can do anything, they can carve on gold plates and they can keep track of time.
Exactly.
So what's the problem with 600 years? Every time a year comes by, just make another notch in the palm tree.
Yeah, and in fact, the prophets, from Mosiah forward, there are times when they feel like they have no idea when he's coming.
Yes.
He's coming soon, but they don't know when.
And that's over 100 years before he comes.
Exactly.
I remember that. Okay, so that's a huge problem in the Book of Mormon. It's a huge question, but it becomes explained through the Mosiah priority. The reason that authors in Mosiah and Alma and Helaman don't know when Jesus is coming is because the small plates haven't been translated yet.
Right.
And they won't be
In fact, I would take it a step further in saying that they don't even know about the small plates yet, because that's not a decision that gets made until it's further down in the dictation sequence when D&C 10 is given, and then you have the idea that there's another set of plates that need to be dictated or translated.
And we are sort of engaging in the Book of Mormon's own fiction when we're saying they didn't know about the small plates yet. What we really mean is Joseph hadn't conceived of the small plates yet. Is that correct?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And there are several indications of that throughout not only the Book of Mormon, but also Joseph Smith's revelations at the time.
Okay, let's go to the next one.
Can I ask you guys a quick question?
Yes.
Yeah, please.
So tell me if I'm totally mixing things up. I probably am, almost certainly. But if we were to frame this story in a way that maybe my listeners who aren't as connected to the academics will understand, are we basically, does this have to do with the last 116 pages and Joseph having, shared the original pages with Martin Harris, and then they got lost, such that Joseph had to then finish writing the book and then go back and replace the pages later? Is any of that tied into this? And or would y'all be willing to just give kind of that quick overview of the story and how what you're about to explore ties in maybe to to questions around Joseph Smith, the authorship of the book, kind of at a meta level?
Yeah, it has everything to do with it.
Just for context, I think my viewers would appreciate the context.
So Martin Harris and Emma had been doing dictation on what Joseph Smith identified as the Book of Lehi. And whether or not that was 116 pages, I have serious doubts about that, because Joseph Smith puts that information in the introduction to the 1830 edition of the Book of Mormon. But if you go to the printer's manuscript of the Book of Mormon, you'll find that entire section from First Nephi up through Words of Mormon barely goes over 116 pages. And I think that that's where he gets that number from. In other words, I suspect that the initial dictation was probably longer to significantly longer than 116 pages. He loses that material, doesn't really know what to do about replacing it at that point. And so he continues on from where it left off. And we know that Mosiah was broken off for whatever reason, because in the printer's manuscript, Mosiah has no introductory information to the book. And chapter 2 is what appears there. Then that gets crossed out and a 1 is put on. Now, Royal Skousen, I believe, believes that it was actually chapter 3 originally, and the 2 Roman numerals are crossed out to create a chapter 1.
Travis, my good soul. It's Friday the 13th, I found out today. So I guess we got to do my Friday the 13th video, especially after seeing a recommended video by YouTube yesterday by a 3-hour speculation by Exfos, Radio Free Mormon, Brent Metcalf, John Dehlin, and Bill Reel. Oh dear God, is that the best Exfos got? Seriously, guys? And you aren't listening to me. You think I'm wrong, and that's the best that you guys got. No wonder that the Strengthening Church Members Committee doesn't go after any of them. Only those that get interviewed by John Dehlin. I mean, seriously, dear God, the church is laughing at these guys. Oh my God. Oh my God. Seriously, guys. I tried to listen to some of their video. I'm not just doing this, not listening to them, because I saw them talk about the Mosiah priority, or priority of Mosiah. And I was curious to know what that meant. Curious to know if they know that that's Hebrew. And as I saw their index of the particular book that got published, and I'm reading over them and I'm going, oh my God, this book is crap. Just one of my videos is more valuable and plain, pure, and precious than that whole book. The whole thing is worthless. But I get down and I see Hebrew attempt in Alma chapter 12 and 13. Just, oh my God. Oh my God. And so, but there's an interesting one that I'm going to point out to you that they didn't even bother to catch. They claim to be scholarship, and they're talking down to their audience. Did you notice that if you watched it? I'm sure you did. For those of our audience who are not into scholarly research, so there's a difference between telling Mormons they're incapable of learning, and it's another thing for telling Mormons that you're purposely not learning. That's what I do to you. I condemn you for not just simply reading your Book of Mormon. That's a basic thing that everybody should be doing. But these guys, they think they're superior. And they're crap. Oh my God. I thought maybe there would be something of value in it. No. Just the 4-minute segment, 4 or 5 minute segment that I'm going to add at the beginning. The whole thing, oh my hell. Oh my hell. But let's point out to this part here. Verse 25 in Alma 13. Now we only wait to hear the joyful news declared unto us by the mouth of angels of his coming. For the time cometh, we know not how soon. Angels are going to declare the time is at hand. So they're waiting for the angels to declare the time of his coming. Would to God that it might be in my day, but let it be sooner or later. In it I will rejoice. And it shall be made known unto just and holy men by the mouth of angels at the time of his coming, that the words of our fathers may be fulfilled, according to that which they have spoken concerning him, which was according to the spirit of prophecy which is in them. Watching Heroes. I'm in season 2 now. Hero has gone back in time to his hero. And I already see what's being done here. He's going to be the one to mate with the woman of his dreams rather than the Englishman. The Brit already see it coming and thus give birth to him and his family later on. Already see it coming. They definitely need work with script writing, character development, plot line, but nonetheless, if you go back in time, you automatically change the current time and the future. This is a conundrum that none of the sci-fi guys get. It has got to be the lamest plot line of stories for sci-fi. It's a wasted episode. And now Disney with Marvel has been doing it, even though I enjoyed Loki because of his other character who's female. So I can enjoy it. It's just stupid. And for people to think that it's possible, stupid. And so the problems that these four are having are the same problems that they had when they were Mormon. Mormon apologists have this problem. And it's an inability to be a scholar. The Brent Metcalf, he's labeled as an LDS historian and scholar. In science, you can't speculate. You can't make things up to explain things. That's called pulling a fallacy argument. It's a falsehood. You've just nullified your conclusion. You are incapable of running a test, and therefore there will be no fruit. You now know them by the lack of fruit. Sound familiar? Matthew chapter 7, starting verse 15. False prophets, wolves in sheep's clothing, you will know them by their fruits. And so in science, when you're doing any kind of research in whatever field, you are required to collect evidence, to categorize, list the evidence however you want. I've been telling you for church history, have separate pages for persons, places, events, dates, so that when you go through them, you look for patterns. These patterns tell you how it was done, how it happened, what was going on. When you come across an anomaly, that does not fit the pattern, you need to run a test. And so you have to assemble the evidence, develop a theory with logical Socratic methodology. No fallacy arguments. And then this theory has to be designed to be tested. If your theory can't be tested, you don't have a theory, because you're never going to produce any fruit from it. You have to discard it, throw it away, burn it to the ground. Start over. Or at least go back and try to figure out which premise is incorrect. Maybe it's just a one or a few that need to be fixed. And then you run the test, and you must get a confirmation. And then you've got to be able to run independent testing. You can't run the same test over and over again. You already confirmed it works. That's where insanity comes from Albert Einstein, or was it? I think it was Albert Einstein. If you keep doing the same thing over and over again but expecting a different result, it works both ways. If you keep running the test over and over again and it keeps failing, but you keep running the test hoping that one time it'll be confirmed, yeah, you're stupid. Likewise, if you run the test, it's confirmed. You don't need to run it again. You confirmed it. So obviously, it will continually be confirmed. So if you're going to keep running the test to find out, it'll be proven false this time. It's like flipping a coin that has two heads. It's going to come up tails one of these times. No, it won't. It's got two heads. And so, if you watched the Fast X, where they're out in space and the two guys are talking about how to get back to Earth, and he talks about get 3 confirmations and you've established a fact. He's correct. Facts are important, but it's not eternal law yet. So we have the laws of physics. They are confirmed no matter what test is put on them. They've been confirmed not just 3 times for fact, but continually, repeatedly, through all different ways and manners, get confirmed. It's now an eternal law. Gravity? Yeah, eternal law. Vegetation theory? Eternal law. Sorry, heroes. You keep running the same test, hoping one time it'll be confirmed and you'll find the missing link. Ain't gonna happen. Ain't gonna happen. And yet there are people who take somebody's inability to produce a test theory and they run with it and they expand upon it, and then you realize how absurd it gets. And it's laughable but sad and pathetic that there are actually people who do not know how to do the scientific process that I gave you. And they think it's all legitimate and factual, and this is the way it's done, and thus the 4 that I'm mocking. And John Dehlin should know better. He's in a false field of fallacy. Psychology. He should never be put into a scholarly panel. ever. He's also a betrayer. The Strengthening Church Members Committee stalk him as he feeds them new apostates. And so, with the Book of Mormon, you have to gather the facts. Well, the evidence. Sorry. What are the evidence about the Book of Mormon? 1. Who wrote it? You need to use science of linguistics. You need to run the test. You can't just assume that the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is telling you the truth. That it's literal history from ancient American Indians, and that Joseph Smith translated by the gift and power of God. And again, all 4 of them assumed that Joseph Smith wrote the Book of Mormon. However, science has determined that the major author of the Book of Mormon, starting from Mosiah, is Sidney Rigdon. But he wasn't baptized until later that year. So, you're speculating. You're throwing in a fallacy argument to dismiss the evidence that Sidney Rigdon is the major author of the majority of the Book of Mormon. So every single discussion must have the evidence of Sidney Rigdon being the author of the Book of Mormon. Right where they're talking about. Royal Skousen speculates that the beginning was actually chapter 3. Oh my God. Oh my God. If you only knew what I knew about Royal Skousen, guys. If only you knew. And so, yes, referencing non-authoritative persons is also stupid. That's a fallacy. Even Oakes told you about that kind of fallacy. He used that in the clip not too long ago, the other week or something. And so, who rewrote the 116 pages? Still not Joseph Smith. Turns out, the evidence is that Joseph Smith had nothing to do with any composition of the Book of Mormon. None. Everybody must have that also as evidence as they're assembling things together. It was Joseph Smith Sr. who rewrote the 116 pages. They talk about it. And they think Joseph is wrong. See, once you know that contemporary men wrote the Book of Mormon, that it wasn't ancient American Indians, you're supposed to keep going on that. Just like a seed produces fruit that contains more seed to produce more fruit. See, this show is going off of a seed that never got tested to confirm fruit, and they're spiritualizing that seed that it produces fruit, and then they're taking spiritual seeds of the spiritual fruit to produce more spiritual fruit. It's a common thing in sci-fi, space sci-fi, the final frontier. And so as much as it's entertaining, because Americans especially are not getting properly educated on science, you got too many Americans who believe this is potentially real. Ain't gonna happen. Ain't gonna happen. Okay? And so, you need to then know who the people were and where they were from. Remember? Persons, places, dates, events. And geography, location. Because if you're going to assume that everybody was baptized on April 6th, 1830, but then you find out that it was actually in Manchester that they were baptized, that the meeting was in the evening, supposedly in Fayette, you've got a problem if you look at the map. They are incapable of getting there in their time period to Manchester to do the baptisms. But the evidence is very clear they were in Manchester when they were baptized. What do? You stick with the evidence. And so the church was not founded in Fayette. It was Manchester. See how you can fix the historical record. So then you got to understand, well, is Joseph Smith lying to us in his 1838 history? Again, you didn't run the process. You didn't assemble the evidence. So now that we know Joseph Smith Sr. had to rewrite the 116 pages, that Sidney Rigdon is the major author of the Book of Mormon, and we also know that Oliver Cowdery played a part in it, such as Alma chapter 32, which is this doctrine of science that I'm giving you. Faith in the Word producing the fruit to obtain knowledge. Now you got to figure out the other evidence of why are they incorporating, not plagiarizing. The only plagiarism is from the King James Bible, errors and all. The other over 36 contemporary works that are found contained in the Book of Mormon are not plagiarized, but it's blatantly obvious where they got it from. There is enough consistency to know the source origin, but there is enough changes to make it their own. And so why would they have the late war? Why would they have Solomon Spaulding's manuscript found? Why would they utilize Charles Anton's republished work of ancient classical names? And they talk about Mosiah as a priority. They said Alma, chapter 12 and chapter 13, is Joseph's experiment with Hebrew. And yet, Mosiah is a Hebrew combination. See, the Book of Mormon of Sidney Rigdon starts with the Book of Mosiah. That's Hebrew. Two Hebrew names, Moses and Yah, the Hebrew God. Why is there Hebrew in the Book of Mormon? Seriously? Seriously, oh my God. The beginning of the Book of Mormon, the rewritten 116 pages by Joseph Smith Sr. Yea, I make a record in the language of my father. Nephi, talking about his father. Which consists of the learning of the Jews and the language of the Egyptians. And this is not the Book of Lehi. This is an abridgment by Nephi about what was contained on the Book of Lehi. But it's not literal history. It is contemporary, written by Joseph Smith Sr. So once you start assembling the evidence, you see the bigger picture, just like a puzzle. And so, because it is not literal history, this is not the first year of the reign of Zedekiah, king of Judah. This is not about Lehi starting his ministry in the first year. You see the Egyptian Christ. Verses 8 through 10, specifically verse 9. And it came to pass that he saw one descending out of the midst of heaven, and he beheld that his luster was above that of the sun at noonday. Learning of the Jews, language of the Egyptians. Amen. The god Amen of the Egyptians. God in Hebrew is El. Amen, El. Where do we know that name from? Isaiah. Why are there Hebrew and Egyptian in here? Because the first year of the reign of King Zedekiah, in real history, was to the pre-Babylonian captivity Jewish Egyptians. This is the time frame that Joseph Smith Sr. is giving you. So you're going to need to know the religion of the Jews concerning the Christ of the Jews, which is Egyptian. Emmanuel. Notice it's not Jesus. So these knuckleheads, as I was trying to get back to a starting point of the 116 pages and caught the end of the 600-year conundrum. Reject my word at your peril. This was the most brilliant thing that Joseph Smith Sr. could have done. And those self-proclaimed scholars that are better than you missed it. No duh. They're still assuming that it was Joseph Smith who made that error. Just you can't put in a falsehood. Only evidence. Joseph Smith is not evidence. He even tells us before Martin Harris arrived, he was busy copying the original 116 pages. So that he would not have the original with him with Martin Harris. Joseph Smith is telling us he was reading from his copy of the original to Martin Harris, who was then writing another copy. And so Martin Harris stole the copy he wrote. And so that whole conundrum that Mormons have, oh yeah, Joseph could have rewritten it exactly as it was originally worded. But we don't know what was going to happen. Yeah, we do. Yeah, we do. Yes, we do. Do not speculate. If you don't know the answer and you're not going to bother to do the research to assemble the evidence together, just say, I don't know and I don't care to know. And yet you do care to know, because you go around lying. That makes you evil if you knowingly will not do the research and you knowingly spread lies. Regardless of whether you're a Mormon or an ex-foe or an Evermo. You must use the evidence of Judaism, pre-Babylonian captivity, Egyptian. You must use the evidence of Joseph Smith Sr. rewriting the 116 pages. And you must use Sidney Rigdon as the major author of the rest of the Book of Mormon. And Oliver Cowdery for at least Alma 32. And then there's a whole bunch more evidence. And so now that we're over 33, cool. Let me tell you how it was done. Now obviously I can't go over all the evidence with you. It would take 8.2K videos. Hours long. Hey, isn't that your total collection of videos, Travis? Start with Joseph Smith Sr. in Vermont. He names his son Hiram, spelled Hiram, for Hiram Abiff of the York Rites, Freemasonry. The Hiram Abiff of the Passion Play concerning the murder and the investigation as to who done it. This is understood as the murder of Osiris. And so the York Rites have as the highest rank the Knights Templar. Friday the 13th. Joseph Smith Sr. knows them, knows about them, knows the lore, because he's Yorkites. He knows what happened on Friday the 13th, that they got scattered, that the leader was burned like a Benedict, that they got a ride to the Americas with the Vikings. And there were some groups that were settling in Canada. There's a well up in Canada on the East Coast. And down in America, North Carolina, South Carolina, somewhere like that, there's another Knights Templar tourist spot now. And then there's the Kensington Stone in the Dakotas, where they came into Canada in the rivers to that location and met the Mandan Indian tribe. And the Kensington Stone of 1363, if I'm remembering correctly, was carved with Knights Templar additions to runes. That's why they were able to identify the actual date. And after that, there was another American Indian tribe in southern Illinois that just disappeared. This Indian tribe were the sun people worshiping the sun god at the Sun City, with the chief being the sun chief, offering human sacrifices on their altars. Sort of like Abraham sacrificing Isaac. They just disappeared. And to the east, there's now what's known as Little Egypt. There are caves. The Knights Templar took with them Egyptian gold treasure plates. Any of that sounding familiar, or are you still insistent that it's golden because it's lighter to carry? All this is known to Joseph Smith Sr. I think it was 1816 when Senior moved to Palmyra. And I think he took at least one or two sons with him. And when he was able to obtain the farm in Manchester in 1818 by becoming a master mason of the Ontario Lodge number 23 of Canandaigua, New York, which is just south on the road. You need a horse to get there. It's a little beyond walking distance if you're going to try to get to an evening session. Hiram would become a member of the one in Palmyra, also Yorkites. Barneras lived in Palmyra. Joseph Smith worked on his farm in Palmyra. Palmyra was walking distance from the farm in Manchester. Daddy gets the horse. the car. The boys have to walk. Because they're not that rich to have the sons have their own cars. Okay? All of these things must be factored in. Also in Vermont, Senior attended, as often as occasion would permit, meetings of the New Israelites of Nathaniel Wood. It is very clear that his intention of attending was to learn all he can about Jewish Kabbalah. Not witchcraft, Jewish Kabbalah. So thus, holiness to the Lord, not witchcraft, Jewish Kabbalah. And then the Jupiter symbol on it. And Joseph Smith got a Jupiter stone. It's because this new Israelite group believed they were the new Israelites, direct descendants from the lost tribes of Israel. That the angelic tongue is Hebrew. And they believed, as Joseph Smith translation, Revelation chapter 12, verse 1, edition, tells us. A sign in heaven in the likeness of things on earth. Likeness of things on earth is prophecy. Sign in heaven is revelation, time. So why would the Book of Mormon and the Bible give the precise day and hour of Jesus' first coming, but his second coming, no man knows the day or the hour? This passage also moves verse 5 to verse 3. This is clearly a time, a date. What's the date? Did you run the test? It's science. What is the date? Is it 1 CE, December 25th? Or is it 6 April? Neither. It is the 23rd of September 2017. Everybody knew about it in 2017. It was part of my #1 video going over 21st of August 2017 and the 23rd of September 2017. Where I'm explaining to you about the 21st of August 2017, it meant that the United States is going to fall. And of the coming of the Jewish Christ to start his ministry. I'll go back to the Book of Mormon again. Joseph Smith Sr. rewrote this. Verses 8 through 10, where 9 is the Christ, which would be Jupiter in Revelation. Lehi, being overcome with the Spirit, was carried away in a vision, like the first and second vision of Joseph Smith and the Kirtland Temple vision. Yeah. This constitutes a seer. Even that he saw the heavens open. We're about to get a date, a time, day and hour. He thought he saw God sitting on his throne. Verse 5, that gets moved to verse 3 in the Joseph Smith translation. Isaiah chapter 6, verse 1. And then the rest is from Isaiah chapter 7, verse 14, and Revelations 2 and 3. 1, 2, and 3. Came to pass he saw Jupiter and 12 others in Leo, the lion. 23rd September, 2017. The first year that Lehi starts his ministry. Lehi is a representation of the Latter-day Christ, the Jewish Christ, not Jesus. Established as fact, if not eternal law. Because I've gone beyond 3 confirmations. Because astronomy is an eternal law. And so, did the Jewish Christ show? Run the test. Run the test. Dear God. Dear God. So, Joseph Smith Sr. likewise wrote 2 Nephi chapter 3 verse 5. We all know it's Joseph Smith Jr. that is the descendant of Joseph of Egypt. The Jews call him Messiah, Christ, son of Ben Joseph of Egypt. Joseph Smith is the Christ? Daddy designated his son with the same name as the Christ. But a branch off, Hiram, would give birth to the following Christ, Messiah ben David, a Mormon. So thus the Messiah ben David should be made manifest unto Mormons of Joseph Smith's religion in the latter days. The start of the ministry being the 23rd of September 2017. This is real simple stuff when you use science. So there are multiple confirmations of this. But this is the test that you're supposed to run. Section 107, verse 91 and 92. And again, the duty of the president of the office of the high priesthood is to preside over the whole church and to be like unto Moses. Deuteronomy 18:15. They didn't reference. They don't want you to know. They want you to believe we're Christian, that Joseph was Christian, that Jesus is the Christ, that the Book of Mormon is another testament of Jesus Christ, which Joseph Smith said in verse 19 of the first vision is all wrong, abominable, and corrupt. We're Jewish. Pre-Babylonian captivity Egyptian Jews. And so the test, Matthew chapter 7, starting in verse 15, it's not just for prophet. It's for seer, revelator, and also translator. Did you run the test to confirm? You cannot be saved in ignorance, Mormons. Can't be done. And so, Senior is telling Junior in section 3, verse 16, that the Bible is Jewish. And you can reference to the footnote, 2 Nephi chapter 29, a Bible. Christians have a Bible and they need no more Bible. Have you obtained a Bible, save it were by the Jews? About the Jewish Christ, not Jesus. And so likewise, he says, the Book of Mormon must get published, since Martin Harris stole it. And thus, the Book of Mormon is Jewish, about the Jewish Christ. Knowledge of a Savior must come unto Mormons, the Jewish Christ. And so Junior was put on timeout for a whole year. Martin Harris is out of the picture. We don't need him anymore. He stole the 116 pages and ran away. He went back to his anti-Mason committee members in Palmyra because what he had read on the 116 pages concerned him about an event that occurred in Canandaigua, New York on 9/11, yesterday, 1826, at least in the Jewish calendar. Kiss Levin Levin. I did the videos yesterday for you on it. So Senior knows about that incident. And he is telling Junior, why didn't you come to me when your son died? See, Martin Harris insisted on being a part of it. That's why Junior had to copy the original 116 pages that were being written in Canandaigua. While Sidney Rigdon was carrying on after the 116 pages were written. Because the 116 pages were as far as the original author in Canandaigua got. But it is not Joseph Smith Sr. The man that was writing the book at Senior's Lodge was a guy by the name of William Morgan, who, during the War of 1812, when the White House burned down, had learned about an enemy plot to overthrow the government of the United States of America in the latter days, starting in the first year of 2017. Using the Bible dates to coordinate their plot. That's why the Book of Mormon starts us off at the beginning of the latter days, when the Jews prophesied of the coming of their Christ, whom Joseph Smith says is a Mormon. Senior, likewise, says is a Mormon. That's why Junior says it. Second vision, verse 40. There's a reason why he has you go to Acts. You're supposed to actually check them. And then you go, wait a minute, that's not cut off. No, duh. No, duh. And so, the 600 years is brilliant. Because 2017 is when he starts his ministry, when he exoduses from Jerusalem. the man like Moses, Exodus. So, taking it literal for the math, 600 years from the first year of the real King Zedekiah would be 597, and thus 4 CE, not 1. And so, run the test. Is there a sign in the heavens of the birth? What is the sign of the sun god at noonday? I know, it's Captain Obvious stuff. The sun is the sign of the sun god. So you're looking for a sign of the sun. An eclipse. So when does an eclipse occur? December 25th? Nope. April 6th? Nope. But April 8th over Russia. Annular. And when you understand signs in the heavens and the likeness of things on the earth, that's where Abraham sacrificing Isaac comes from. You have the father, who's the son. You have Isaac, who's getting sacrificed as son Amen. He talks about, Father, where's the lamb for the sacrifice? God will provide. Then, as he's about to sacrifice him, Book of Mormon says he's sacrificed. A messenger appears. It says, you don't need to go through with it. Here's a ram. There's a zodiac constellation of the ram, Aries. Also a lamb. But that's fascinating. Senior is brilliant. And Mercury is the messenger of the gods. Sure enough, on 8 April 4 CE, you have Mercury, the solar eclipse in Aries, over Russia, which would be seen as a partial eclipse from Israel. And so, 2020 years to the day, 8 April 2024, you have Revelation 19 verses 11 and 17 on the back of the white horse in Pisces. It's total. It's on the last day of the Jewish year. It's the last year of the latter days. Established facts, if not eternal law, because more than 3 confirmations. And where's Jupiter? The representation of the Jewish Christ in Aries. The Lamb of God in Aries. Thus, whenever I get around to Revelation 19 with section 58 of the Doctrine and Covenants, I will explain those in greater detail. That's a Zion thing. Now, do you understand why Senior had to rewrite the 116 pages? He knew the information. Sidney Rigdon didn't. Sidney Rigdon was asked to continue on with Mosiah, which is Moses, the Jewish Christ, Yah, the Hebrew God, which Ishmael is the name of Yah, is the sun god, a man like Moses. That's why Mosiah is told by Ammon to King Limhi that he's a seer, which is a prophet and a revelator, by which he has the interpreters to translate. He's the Christ. And I can keep on going. On and on, on and on. This is why it's so pathetic that the best that ex-fo Nevermos have are clueless. They can't get anything right. I did see another video that got my curiosity. I have not watched it. It was titled Mormons and the Third Reich, Monthly Mormon, Monday 12. Not sure what that means. But the picture has a shadowy figure and then Illuminati. So I am kind of curious what they might think they know. But that Illuminati is the threat. How art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning, Venus, symbol of the inverted pentagram of Lucifer. From the Latin Vulgate. The biblical Hebrew and the Septuagint do not have Lucifer. From the Latin Vulgate. At least they shouldn't. I can check. It's possible they reimposed Lucifer into Greek and Blue Letter Bible. They shouldn't. That would be a faux pas, a gaffe. So yeah, the Exodus year was 2020, by the way. Every event of the Exodus happened in 2020. Your Christ is here, Mormons. You're in grave danger, Mormons. The enemy is about to murder you. As Joseph Smith warned you, they that come shall burn you. Not Jesus and his second coming on Christmas, which is just cruel. But that's their whole intention, is to destroy Christianity. And thus the church wants to destroy Joseph Smith and the Book of Mormon by keeping it Christian. And it's doing well. You got ex-foes, Nevermos, still believing that the Book of Mormon is Christian. Joseph Smith was Christian. That they believed that the 600-year date was to the birth of Jesus. Brigham Young gotcha. And you fell for it. we were seeing if Isaiah is it 12 or 14? Or is it 7? It's not 12. I think 14 is, yeah, that's it, verse 12. That's why the 12 was screwing me up. So MGNT for the Greek. Scroll down to 12 again. Nope. I do not see Lucifer in Greek. Yeah. Fascinating. Strong's doesn't even bother to bring up any of the meanings here. Why is that? They're only referencing, they're not doing the translation, guys. What the hell? So let's do Westminster Leningrad Codex. See if they still do the same thing. So here it's Hallelujah, though. They have it, oh, Lucifer, but it's not Lucifer. At best, it's similar to Lilith. But the masculine version of it, thus the husband of Lilith. I'd have to go over Paleo-Hebrew with you to explain that. So, there you have it. They made an error on that biblical Hebrew text, and they won't even, it's not there in Greek either. Alrighty. So, yeah, it's sad that these guys think they're so superior that they know it all, and that everybody needs to come to them for all things church history and Book of Mormon and Joseph Smith, and they're dumber than dumb. I really have to struggle holding my tongue. I really do. Okay. So, yeah, the message is a warning about the Illuminati and attacking. Got that right. I covered that. So, yeah, put the pieces of the puzzle together and you'll see the big picture like I already see. And thus, you run the test, Brigham Young is false. Therefore, nobody from him is true. Again, if you're starting with a corrupt seed, you cannot keep running the test with each successor to maybe it turns true. It doesn't work that way. If Brigham Young is false, everybody from him is false. If you're going to turn the Book of Mormon into literal history as Christian, everything you branch off from that is also false. That's what those four guys, who are supposedly the best of the best of the best, don't get. They never bothered to run the test. They got a little information, as they supposed, called it evidence, and use it for everything, and dismiss what evidence doesn't fit that narrative of a spiritual witness fruit. And then they take that spiritual witness seed from the spiritual witness fruit and produce a whole vineyard of spiritual witness fruit. And it's utterly laughable and absurd that they could think that they're on the right track and that they know all things. Just sad and pathetic. So here I am, the one guy who knows, And YouTube is attacking me because the church knows who I am. They understood that video I did in July 2017. And anybody who would just do a simple check would go, wait a minute, why is that video skyrocketing high above the other top videos? And yet, currently, he's struggling to get 50 after a week? When the latter days are over, you can judge me by my fruit. I have real fruit. We're just waiting on the final four, and this whole month as a megasplitzel. And that sun, or the moon, it's an extreme moon. Doesn't happen for 18.1 years. And it happens this year, of all years. It's just incredible. And I demonstrated with oaks how it works. That's not part of prophecy, but it's part of Joseph Smith translation, Revelation 12:1 edition. Sign in the heavens, likeness of things on the earth. And yet, where are you, Mormons? Where are you, ex-foe, nevermos? Why are you believing the lies? Because YouTube shut me down under orders of the church through the Strengthening Church Members Committee. That's why. They know who I am, and they refuse to behave.